Well, welcome to another Friday night. We've been doing this series on reparenting ourselves, and that's because of growing up in complex trauma. Often we weren't taught the tools we needed. Often certain needs weren't met, so we need to learn how to meet those needs. We need to learn the tools we need to be healthy. And so that's the reparenting process. And today what I want to cover and talk about is balance. So a parent, as they train their children, want them to understand that a healthy life requires balance. And what that assumes is every person has many different needs: physical, emotional, relational, intellectual, spiritual. We have different responsibilities that become part of our lives. And so if I'm going to be healthy, I have to meet all of those needs and I have to fulfill those responsibilities. But there's only 24 hours in a day and I have limited energy. And so I have to meet all those needs and responsibilities within a certain number of hours and with the energy that I have. And so I have to train myself to balance all of those different things in life. So it's like a juggler. You have all of these responsibilities and needs, and you have to keep all these different balls in the air. And if one ball drops, or you just focus on one ball, all the other balls will drop, and then your life will be a mess. And so part of life is learning balance. And what we want to understand right up front is that balance happens when we think with our cortex. If we are in our limbic brain, we will not have a balanced life. The limbic brain equals imbalance. So what I want to begin with is have you think of 16 different areas of life that we have to balance, these are the 16 balls that we have to juggle as adults. So, number one, recovery. We have to be in a recovery mindset, doing recovery-related activities if we're going to stay on track. Because if we lose our recovery, everything falls apart. Then we'll have a job. That requires a certain number of hours a day. Then we have physical needs. We have to eat. We have to sleep a certain length of time. We need exercise. Then we have intellectual needs. We need to be learning. We need to be thinking about things. We have spiritual needs. We have emotional needs. We need to manage our emotions, be aware of our emotions, express our emotions, deal with the emotions of others. We have a partner, if you're in an intimate relationship, where that relationship, we need to communicate, we need to resolve conflict, we need to have fun together, we need to build connection, be present to each other, do stuff together. And then if we have children, their responsibility. And the more children you have, the more time it takes to connect with each child, to build a relationship with each child, to understand each child. And then they'll have friends. Friends take time to maintain relationships, to do things with them. And then you have a biological family, an extended family, parents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins. All of those, there might be a certain amount of responsibility that you feel in those relationships. And then you might have some hobbies, things that you just enjoy doing for your downtime, your self-care. Then you want to develop skills for jobs, skills with computer technology, skills to learn a new hobby. Then you may want to I need to volunteer, I need to give back, I need to be involved in some type of service. Then you got maintenance of the things you own. The more you buy, the more you have to maintain. A home, that takes a lot of work to maintain, both inside and outside. A car, different types of possessions that you have that require maintenance, that require care. And then you got to manage your finances so you're not going into debt. So all of that. And then you got to factor in rest in there, vacation, fun. That's a lot of different responsibilities. And what I hope you see is if one of those suffers, pretty soon everything's going to start to suffer. So I have to be taking care of all 16 or else they all suffer. So that requires balance. And that takes a lot of skill. Now let me take it beyond just the 16 areas to have you think about it from this perspective. So what I realize in my own life, and you will realize in your life, I need to find a balance between alone time and time with people. I need time alone, but I need social connection. I need other relationships. But what I know is I need a certain amount of alone time. If I have too little alone time, I suffer. If I have too much alone time, I suffer. If I don't get enough connection with people, I suffer. So I need to figure out the right amount of alone time and the right amount of connection. But then what's significant is my wife's amount of alone time is different from what I need. And her connection time and social time is different from what I need. So her balance in those areas is different than my balance in those areas. So I got to figure out that. But then, in the relationship that I have with my wife or with my kids or with close friends, I need deep times of sharing, really connecting at intimate, deep levels. But I don't want all of the relationship just to be about deep sharing. We need to have fun together. We need superficial chat times. So I need to find a balance between deep sharing and light sharing. That is an important balance, and every relationship is a little bit different. And then I have to figure out a balance with money. So what do I do with extra money? Do I go spend it all? Or do I put some into savings? Or do I give it away? I need to find a balance with that. Give some, save some, spend some. What that looks like for me is going to look different for you, but there's a balance that is necessary to find there. And then it's always the whole balance between self-care, meeting my own needs, but being a parent and in an intimate relationship and sacrificing and meeting the needs of my children and my wife. I need to find a balance between time with self-care versus time and sacrifices to meet the needs of others. That requires a balance. And then friends. I have to find the right balance with friends because there's some friends that mainly my time with them is listening to them and giving to them, supporting them, and it drains me. Other friends, I spend time with them and it rejuvenates me. I enjoy time with them. It gives to me. If I have too many friends who are just need friends, I'm going to burn out. So I need the right balance between friends where I give and support and friends who give to me. That requires a balance. And then I have friends that I need to spend time with, but my wife and my kids need my time too. So how do I make that balance? Because if I spend too much time with my friends and not enough time with my kids or my wife, they're going to resent it. They're going to feel neglected. It's going to hurt them. So I need the right balance in spending time with people. And then if I got more than one child, I want to make sure that I give the right amount of time to each child and equal time to each child, so that one's not feeling like they're being left out or they don't matter as much as the other one. And that requires a balance. And then I want to be able to enjoy wonderful gifts like food, sex, but I also know that I need self-discipline, and there's times I need to deny myself indulging in food, indulging in just watching TV. So I need a balance between denying myself and enjoying gifts if I'm going to be a healthy person. Take that further. I'm going to have days where I got so many things on my to-do list, but I need time to rest and some downtime. And so I got to go through this debate in my head. Okay, do I just do one more thing and then relax? Or no, I got to relax now and just say that's going to have to wait. I got to figure that balance out in my life. And then in a family environment in our home, 75% we saw a few weeks ago needs to be a positive, encouraging, positive limbic brain experience for the children. So I need to be giving them positive feedback. But I also at some point need to give them negative feedback. So I need to balance the positive feedback and encouragement I give them versus confronting them and pointing out their flaws. That needs to be balanced. And then as I live with the limitations of time and energy, there's going to be a lot of times where I go, okay, I can't do this perfectly. I want to do my best, but I have to do my best within the time I have available to do this job because I got other jobs. So doing my best has to now be defined by the amount of time I have. And I got to find the balance for that. So what I want you to begin to realize is this balance thing is absolutely essential, but it is complex. It is complicated. We are not going to figure it out in a day. It's going to take a long time to figure it out. And so that's part of why children need healthy parents, because healthy parents help children figure out what a balanced life looks like. But if you came from complex trauma, you probably didn't get that. So let me talk about complex trauma and how it messes up this whole idea of balance and doesn't give you the tools that you need. And some of you might find this rather discouraging. But I want you to understand right up front that to be in survival mode means you can't be balanced. So if complex trauma means living in survival mode, so it means you lived a life out of balance. So that's the first thing I want you to understand. Secondly, survival mode meant living in your limbic brain. What happens when your limbic brain is triggered? It wants to do things to give instant gratification or protection. But what I want you to see is the limbic brain wants to do things that usually create even greater imbalance. They pull you towards greater imbalance or things becoming even worse. So you can't depend on your limbic brain to be a reliable guide in finding balance. Okay, so here's some of what you might have experienced growing up in complex trauma that messed up balance. Some of you grew up in chaos. There was no balance, no organization, no structure. It was just chaos. Others of you grew up in structure, rigid structure, total control freak parents where everything was regulated. That's not balance either, but it looked like balance. But some of you grew up with that. Some of you grew up in a family where their whole focus was just meeting your physical needs. And they thought because they met your physical needs well, that they taught you balance. But they ignored your emotional needs, your spiritual needs, your intellectual needs. And so without even realizing it, you were out of balance, but you were made to feel that your emotional needs were all that mattered, and so you were balanced. So it was very distorted. Some of you had parents who were totally out of balance in their own lives. They were workaholics. They weren't emotionally available. They neglected you. They weren't present. Some of you had parents who were addicts. They were consumed by their addiction, totally out of balance. Some of you had parents who were in survival mode themselves because of abusive relationships. They were out of balance. Some of you had parents who just went overboard in everything they did. And when they found a new thing that they liked, they just did it 110%, and they neglected you. And they neglected everything else in their life, out of balance. Some of you had parents who were totally obsessed with their image. And so their life was all about externals, never about internals, out of balance. Some of you had parents who were trying to find balance but couldn't. So you might have had a mother who was constantly overeating, and then she'd go from one diet to another, totally obsessed with this new diet, out of balance, out of balance, out of balance. Some of you came from homes where there was no balance emotionally. You were only allowed to show positive, happy emotions. You couldn't be sad. You couldn't express anger. You couldn't express confusion. So your emotional life was out of balance. So complex trauma does not create balance. It does not give you the tools to have balance. Now, you might be there going, is balance really this important? Like you're saying it is, but I'm not yet convinced. Let me read you some quotes that show the importance of balance. So Thomas Merton has said this: happiness is not a matter of intensity, which is what complex trauma people think. Happiness is a matter of balance and order and rhythm and harmony. And I would agree. You can't be truly happy unless you're balanced. Someone has said this: balance is a feeling derived from being whole and complete. So when you're balanced, then you can become whole and complete. It's a sense of harmony. It's an essential to maintaining quality in life and work. So if you want to get to a point of feeling whole and complete, you got to be balanced, because you got to meet all of the different needs. Somebody said this: life is about balance. Too much and too little can kill. That is so true. Somebody else said this: when our life is out of balance, we have stress. So a life out of balance increases stress. Somebody said this: I have no balance, my life is a hot mess. And many of you can relate to that. Then there's this: balance, how much you give of yourself, including volunteer activities. You won't do anyone any good if you are stretched too thin. In other words, if you're not balanced with self-care versus giving and helping others, you're going to burn out, and then you'll be no good to anybody. So balance is so essential if you're going to be effective in life. Somebody said this: without balance, a life is no longer worth the effort. That's why balance is important. It's absolutely essential to being happy, to feeling complete, to not being stressed, to being able to serve others, to have a life that's worth living. Now let me give you some signs that your life might be out of balance. And this you can use as a checklist to see if any of these apply to you. So number one, your to-do list appears to be the size of the Empire State Building. In other words, you've been focusing too much on one thing, and everything else just keeps piling up of more and more things that you need to get done. You feel you are very busy but not sure you are accomplishing anything. You feel burned out, you're constantly tired, have headaches or other physical and emotional signs of stress. So for some people, when their life is starting to get out of balance, they start getting physical pain. headaches, muscle pain, and their emotions are affected. They struggle with depression and anxiety. You feel like you are living someone else's schedule and have lost your direction. You start things, but you don't finish them. So you got all kinds of projects you started but never finished. Some areas of your life are totally neglected. So your physical health is suffering, totally neglected. You got relationships that are in disarray because they're totally neglected. You are consumed by a new fun activity, and you're putting all your time into that, but neglecting other responsibilities. You're having difficulty sleeping because your brain is so busy. You're not eating properly, and so eating and sleeping aren't happening properly, the two foundational parts of life. And you struggle to be present with people because your mind has got so many things happening. You are making impulsive, unwise decisions because you're starting to panic. Your mind is like a pinball machine or like a hamster on a wheel. Here's one that's significant. You haven't contacted key people in your life for a couple weeks. A good sign that things are out of balance. Or you have less motivation to do the important stuff in your life. So you're losing your motivation to do the stuff you most need to do to be healthy. So if you see, oh, I'm out of balance, let me take that further. What does that feel like emotionally? What emotions come up when our life is out of balance? And what you'll see is they're all negative. We start feeling more guilt. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, I got to do that, and I haven't got to it yet. So guilt goes up. Increased anxiety. Oh, how am I going to get all this done? Increased stress to the point of feeling overwhelmed. Some people just go to starting to feel numb. There's just too much. Then increased frustration, which means increased anger. You're more irritable. Some just go through this existential thing. I'm not fulfilling my purpose to life. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And so my life is being wasted. I'm not reaching my potential. Others go to shame. I'm just such a failure. I'm not good enough. And so when life is out of balance, it takes a lot of energy, but it produces a lot of negative emotions. So let me take you to reparenting. How do I get balanced? What are the tools I need? I want to start with this. Somebody said, balance is not something you find, it is something you create. So balance is the result of you making decisions about how to use your time. It's the result of dealing with your issues so that you can start making healthier decisions. So it starts from getting your internal world more healthy, then that translates into your external world. So that is key to understand up front. So, another way to say that is, balance begins by managing yourself before it's about managing your time. Okay? So, if you know that you're out of balance, here's where I would get you to start. Ask yourself, okay, am I out of balance and give a whole bunch of possible reasons. So number one, am I out of balance because I've been living in my limbic brain? So everything has been all of a sudden about instant gratification or instant protection. So if I'm in my limbic brain and it's running the show, I will never be balanced. So I need to get out of my limbic brain, back into my cortex. So I need grounding. So this is all part of what we call mindfulness. I'm being curious. Why am I out of balance? What's going on inside of me? So first, am I in my limbic brain? And then what happens if you're in your limbic brain is you revert to old behaviors. And so you go, am I going back to some old behaviors? If I am, that is never going to be a good thing. It's always going to result in greater imbalance. So I need to be aware that most of those old behaviors will be about numbing or distracting. And that's not a balanced life. That's not good. But you could say, you know what? I'm not balanced because I just was never taught how to organize. How to organize my day, how to organize my finances, how to organize my children, how to organize chores. I need practical tools when it comes to getting organized. Or you might say, you know what? The reason I'm not balanced is because I'm afraid to say no to people. I've never been able to set boundaries with people. So if they ask me to do something, I always say yes, and then I'm out of balance because I got way too much on my plate. So if I don't learn how to set boundaries, I'll never be balanced. And that means disappointing people, saying no to people, and maybe even getting people mad at me. But I have to be willing to do that. And that means dealing with my shame. So I'm never going to be balanced if I don't deal with my shame. For some, it's, you know what, I always have the thought that I can do everything and that I have no limitations. So I just keep taking things on when I'm feeling good or in my limbic brain, and then I'm overwhelmed. So I have to learn my limitations, that I can't do everything. And I need help in learning that. Some that come out of complex trauma go, you know what? I begun to realize I'm addicted to chaos. I need things to be going crazy. I need things out of balance to feel normal. I need to deal with that. Others, you know the reason I'm not in balance? Because I'm a perfectionist. So I spend way too much time on doing things to get them perfect that results in neglecting other things that need to be done. I need to deal with this perfectionism stuff. Others go, you know what? I'm a control freak. That's why I'm out of balance. I need to control everything and everybody. And I don't get time for my internal world because I'm controlling my external world. I need help with this fear of not being in control. I need help with that. So, mindfulness. What is going on? Why is my life out of balance? Do I need to deal with shame? Do I need to deal with fear? Do I need to deal with lack of tools, boundaries, all kinds of different things that might be the underlying issues as to why your life is out of balance? So once you get that sorted out, then we go to the second area. Make a list of your responsibilities. So take the 16 areas that we talked about and write out how much time each week or each day, each week for my job, for sleep, for self-care, for spiritual connection, for my relationship with my spouse, with my children, with my friends, recovery. Okay, those I need to do. Those are my responsibilities. Okay, what are the priorities? Well, if I don't take care of myself, then I'm no good to anybody. So I got to get my self-care, the meeting of my 12 needs. That's got to get sorted out. Then my kids and wife come ahead of friends. So that's a priority. My relationship with my higher power, that's a priority. So begin to sort out your priorities. Part of that for some of you might be figuring out what is your purpose in life. Your purpose isn't just so you indulge your desires and just be happy all the time. Your purpose is to fulfill all these responsibilities, which includes loving others. And so you need to figure out who you are, your gifts, your abilities, what your purpose in life is. That's going to be important. For others, some of you have been taught the wrong value system. So everything's been about your body or your external appearance or making money or having a big house. And you need to go, no, those are the wrong values. I need to figure out a new value system so that I have healthy priorities and healthy values. So that's part 2. And then once you get, okay, here's the 16 areas of my life. Here's the priorities of my life. Here's what I want my life to be about. Now you sit down with a day timer and mark out your week. Okay, here's from these hours I'm at work. From these hours I'm sleeping. From these hours I'm doing my quiet time with my higher power. I'm spending time with my kids each day. Mark it out. Going to recovery related stuff. Watch it all put on paper. And for a lot of people, that is really significant. Because now they can see, wow, I've got to fit this stuff into 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I can't be working 4 extra hours a day because then something else will suffer. I can't just go and hang around with my friends whenever they want to because then something else will suffer. So I need to start setting some boundaries, because if I don't start setting boundaries, then I'll get out of balance. But you got to see it all laid out for you and the limitations of time that you have to fit everything into. Then you start out and say, okay, here's what I think a balanced life will look like. I start living that. Then every week, every 2 weeks, you stop and go, okay, how am I doing? I'm still struggling. I'm not having enough time with my most intimate relationships. Or I'm not taking care of myself enough just to have some downtime. Okay, I got to make some adjustments here. What needs to, and you tweak your schedule. You rethink it. You make adjustments. Then you try that out for a little while, and then you make more adjustments. You're always making adjustments because life keeps changing, and things come up that you have to add to your life for a little while. Problems come up that you have to deal with. And so you're always making adjustments. So you do that. Let me just give you the rest through some quotes, because it gives you some other practical tools. So the first tool we've seen, that to have a balanced life, you got to deal with your inward life, things that would cause you to get out of balance. Secondly, boundaries. You can't be balanced without good boundaries. And we've done a whole series on that. Let me give you some other things. A balanced life is hard to achieve in a world where success, power, and physical appearance are thought of as so important. In other words, you got to challenge that value system and say, if I go by the values of our culture, I probably will be out of balance, because I'll put too much emphasis on how I look, how much money I have, what kind of house I live in. I have to get a healthy value system. Then somebody else is this: invest in your work-life balance. Time with friends and family is as important as times at work. Getting that out of balance is a path towards unhappiness. So it's saying one of the greatest challenges to balance is home life versus work life. And most struggle with it. And most don't do it well. And children are the ones that suffer. Marriages suffer. Work to get that sorted out. So what that means, it says, is the next quote. Life is balance of holding on and letting go. So what I'm saying is this: if I am going to be balanced, I got to let some stuff go. I got to let that activity go. I got to let that friendship go. Because I can't give the time and energy to the really important stuff if I hang on to stuff. And that's going to mean some grieving and letting go of some stuff. And then the key to finding a happy balance in life is simplicity. In other words, maybe I've just got too many things to take care of. I need to simplify my life. That would free up a lot of time. Maybe I just got too many relationships I'm trying to manage. I need to let some relationships go and simplify. So, simplicity is often key in getting a balanced life, especially in the beginning. And then I think this one is so important. The hardest thing to find in life is balance, especially the more success you have. Because the more success you have, then more people want your attention. There's more responsibilities that get put on you. The more you look to the other side of the gate, the harder it is to be balanced. So, what do I need to do to stay grounded, in touch, in love, connected, emotionally balanced? Look within yourself. So the bottom line is this. The greater the success I have, the greater the popularity I have, the more important it is to stay balanced in the key connections of life. But the harder it is. So I have to give concerted attention to keeping my life in the priorities. Then balance is not better time management, but better boundary management. Balance means making choices and enjoying those choices. Another one, time is the coin of your life. It's the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it will be spent. Be careful lest you let another person or other people spend it for you. In other words, boundaries. Don't let other people tell you what you should be doing and spending your time coin for you. And then finally, the key to keeping your balance is knowing when you lost it. So as soon as you start to get out of balance, to be able to identify, I'm out of balance. What's gone wrong here? What do I need to change so that you can get back to balance? So the mindfulness that takes an inventory regularly to know when I'm getting out of balance is so essential. I hope that gives you some practical stuff. I hope it helps you see the importance of a balanced life. It's the only life worth living, but boy, is it challenging to do so in our culture today. That's the end of part one. We're going to take a short break, come back for part two, which is the Christian part. And we know that many aren't interested in that, and we're fine with that. But for those of you who are interested, I'll be back in just a minute. For everybody else, have a great weekend. Well, welcome back for the Christian part. We've been looking at the story of Ruth and Naomi, daughter-in-law and her mother, who've gone through some really, really hard times. They've lost everybody in their life, been in poverty. And now they're trying to rebuild a life together, which is very hard in that world for two women, since it was really a man-dominated work world. And so last week, we looked at them coming back to Bethlehem, and Ruth gleaned in the barley harvest and was able to get enough food for her and Naomi to be able to live. But now the harvest has come to an end. And so what were they going to do now? They've got a new problem. They've run out of food. So in that culture, if you're not married and you can't, and there's no harvest, so you can't glean, women would starve, or they would have to have a wealthy person, a relative, to take care of them, or they'd go into prostitution out of desperation. And so Ruth and Naomi are in this desperation point of harvest is done, we need food, what do we do? And so you remember that last time we saw Boaz, where Ruth went to glean in Boaz's field, and Boaz was a relative of Naomi's husband who has died. And in that culture, the husband, the relative, was responsible to help that family go on. And so what would be expected, they were called a kinsman redeemer, they would be expected to marry the widow, so that would have been Naomi, and then they would be expected to get her pregnant, and then the child born to Naomi would be actually considered Elimelech's child and would carry on the family name. But in this situation, Naomi says, I'm too old to have a child, so there's no point in me marrying Boaz. The answer to our problem would be that Ruth would marry Boaz, so that Ruth would have the child who would carry on the family line. So she says, we're told this, one day Naomi says to Ruth, my daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you, so that you will be provided for. So Naomi is really problem solving. So she says, Boaz is a close relative of ours, and he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley. So that's when the harvest is done. Now they have to separate the grain from the wheat, the chaff, and so they did winnowing. So they go up on a hill where it was quite windy, and they put these piles of grain, they beat them and beat them and beat them, and then they take these shovels and throw it in the air. The wind would separate the lighter grain, or the wheat chaff from the grain, and the grain would fall to the ground, and the chaff would blow away. So that was the winnowing process. And so it's a time of celebrations. All the farmers would come. This was the harvest was in. They're guaranteed their crop. Now they're going to celebrate. And so they join together to help each other out. And it turns into this wonderful celebration. And so Naomi says this. So here's what I want you to do. And you have to do what you're told here. Take a bath, put on perfume, dress in your nicest clothes, then go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he is finished eating and drinking. Be sure to notice where he lies down, then go and uncover his feet and lie down there, and he will tell you what to do. Now this is actually just mind-boggling. So what Naomi is saying is, they're going to have this huge party. There's going to be men from the entire village there, threshing out their wheat, doing the winnowing process. They're going to eat and celebrate into the evening, and then they're all going to go and lie down by their stack of grain, put the robe over them as a blanket, and fall asleep to continue the next day. So here's what I want you to do. Now you have to put yourself in Ruth's shoes. Naomi says, I want you to go and uncover his feet. That was a euphemism or a figure of speech in that culture that says, propose marriage to him. So when he lies down, you go and literally uncover his feet, but you lay down at his feet. So he wakes up because his feet are getting cold and he's feeling somebody. And when he sees you at his feet, he knows you're proposing that he marry you. Wow. Now just imagine what that would have been like for Ruth. She's got to bathe herself, put on perfume, and dress like in a wedding type dress. Then in the dark, she's got to sneak through town to make sure nobody sees her, because if anybody sees her, they're going to think she's being a prostitute. Then she's got to get and hide behind bushes all the way through town, get to the threshing floor, hide there, and watch for who knows how long until all the men have gone to sleep. Now, you could have 30, 40, 50 different men who've been drinking, partying. You got to wait for everyone sound asleep. Imagine the anxiety that is going on inside of Ruth. Then you got to pay close attention to where Boaz laid down, and you got to make your way amongst the men without waking anybody up to where Boaz is, uncover his feet and lie down at his feet. Whoa. Can you imagine the stress, the anxiety that Ruth would have felt? So here's what we're told. After Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he lay down at the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she replied. Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. So spread the corner of your cover, marry me, bring me into your family. Ruth is saying, I am going to offer to marry an older man, and he probably was old enough to be your dad, and she is willing to go through all of this emotional distress and anxiety on that night of bathing, perfuming, dressing up, sneaking through the town, waiting until everybody falls asleep, laying down at his feet, uncovering his feet. And do you realize he could have said, "No, get out of here. I don't want you. You're a foreigner." Ruth was willing to take the risk out of love for her mother. And what I hope you're finding as we go through this story is your estimation of Ruth just keeps growing. What an amazing person. Now here's what you have to understand though. Here's one of the points the author is making. Ruth was a foreigner. Ruth was from a cursed nation. Ruth was a people that people naturally looked down on, naturally disrespected. But what we're being forced to do is say, wow, she is miles above other people when it comes to character and love and willingness to sacrifice to love people. I just hope that just helps you, challenges you, encourages you to continue on this growth journey, because Ruth was just about to have a whole bunch of good things happen to her because of all the decisions and risks that she's been willing to make. In other words, when you take the journey of love and growth and getting healthy, at times it is scary, at times it's difficult, at times it's painful, but it does lead to a greater, better life. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this story. Thank you for the example of Ruth and how we need reminders that the hard work, the sacrifice, the risk is worth it when we are doing the right things. Just encourage and help each person here, I pray. Amen. Well, thank you again for being part of another Friday night. Just appreciate you spending time with us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.